Gaijin Entertainment presents The Shooting Range. You're watching The Shooting Range, a weekly show for all tankers, airmen, and aspiring captains in War Thunder. In this episode, a set of good aircraft to help you get used to simulator battles. What's your angle? How to find the optimal angle for angling using in-game tools. Hotline, the developers answer questions that you left in the comments. But first, let's start with the Australian wonder, how to get a fighter plane out of nowhere when the Japanese are knocking on your door. When the Japanese entered the war, the Allies were ill-prepared. After Pearl Harbor, the US were in no state to mount a full-fledged offensive, and European countries in Asia fell to the Japanese onslaught in a handful of days. On the 19th of February, just 2 months after the outbreak of the Pacific War, the first Japanese bombs fell on Darwin. At that point, a full-scale invasion seemed imminent. While RAAF squadrons were few and scattered, most of them were fighting Germans in Europe or Northern Africa, and it was impossible to bring them home. To make matters worse, the pilots of the Imperial Japanese Navy Air Service quickly took care of the precious few P-40s and Airacobras that remained in the Pacific region. The situation was dire. The Royal Australian Air Force didn't have enough men, and it certainly didn't have the planes that could fight the Japanese machines on equal terms. In Australia, only 2 military aircraft were in production at the time, the military CA-6 trainer aircraft and the Bristol Beaufort, equipped with an American Pratt & Whitney twin Wasp radial, neither of which would make a good fighter, or so you'd think. Australian engineers came up with a plan that was equal part reckless and daring. Lawrence Wackett, manager and chief designer of the Commonwealth Aircraft Corporation, suggested that they should make a fighter aircraft out of the CA-6. His idea wasn't completely without reason. The trainer plane was easy to fly, had decent maneuverability, and an extra sturdy frame, since it was designed to be flown by trainees after all. It could be easily modified to carry a powerful 14-cylinder radial engine and some armament. The Australian engineers wasted no time. They reworked the plane, making it shorter, giving it a single-seat cockpit, and outfitting it with 1,200 horsepower Pratt & Whitney R1830 twin Wasp radial engine that Australia had in great numbers. There was only one more problem to solve. The new aircraft needed decent guns, but where to get them? Ordering armament from the British or the Americans was out of the question, and in the end, it all came down to some incredible luck. An Australian sergeant who returned to the land down under right before the start of the Pacific War brought home a small souvenir in the form of a Hispano-Suiza HS-404 cannon. He recovered it from a downed Spitfire while fighting in Africa. Malicious gossip has it that the only reason the sergeant wanted the cannon was because its barrel was great for making moonshine. Be that as it may, once the sergeant heard about the problem, he didn't hesitate to bring the cannon straight to the aircraft manufacturers. And that's basically how the Boomerang got its guns. The Australians copied the design of the trophy Hispano-Suiza HS-404 cannon and started to produce it en masse. The Boomerang was ready. It wasn't the prettiest, but it could roll with the punches. As the engine of the new aircraft didn't have a good supercharger, the performance of the Boomerang fell away rapidly above an altitude of 13,000 feet or 4 kilometers. But that was more than enough for the time being. For your information, the Japanese didn't even believe the early reports concerning the Boomerang. Hardly surprising given the fact that nobody designs planes this way. Alas, but the Boomerang never fought the famous Zero. And soon the Australian plane was overshadowed by the new American-made fighter aircraft. But in the end, the Boomerang turned out to be pretty useful in the capacity of light ground attack aircraft, and more importantly, taught the whole world an important lesson. Sometimes, even the weirdest plans can result in greatness. Now it's time to talk about one of the oldest tricks that can save you in the heat of battle. When it comes to armored warfare, the thickness of your armor plates is not always a decisive factor. Under some circumstances, a relatively shallow sloped armor triumphs over conventional non-angled armor. And even a non-angled armor plate can prove to be hard to penetrate if exposed to the enemy fire at a certain angle. Not all tanks are equipped with sloped armor, but every tank can be positioned in a way that would maximize the effective armor rating of this or that plate. Let's see how you can calculate these angles using the in-game tools. We'll head to the hangar and take a look at the T-34 1942. 45mm thick frontal armor is sloped at 60 degrees. The sides are sloped at 40 degrees. Alright, now go into the X-ray mode, move our cursor over the frontal plate, and then start to rotate the vehicle. Now it stands at a 77mm of effective armor. 85mm? 100. Nope, that's too much, we're overexposing our sides. Let's stop at 95, that's our sweet spot. Notice that at the point, the LOS thickness of the plates at the sides is also pretty high. It stands at 80mm, which makes the tank nigh invincible at BR 3.7, if you position yourself at the correct angle, of course. The same principle applies to your turret as well. And don't forget to move it a little bit, it makes it harder for the opponent to aim. Let's do the same thing with the Tiger. We'll move a cursor over a plate, rotate the tank, and look for that optimal angle. 135mm of frontal armor and 145 at the sides. That's the dream. And our turret is protected by 109mm of armor. Not bad as well. The simple method will help you calculate the optimal angles for all your favorite vehicles. Just keep in mind that not all tanks actually benefit from angling because this maneuver forces you to expose your sides. A good example of such a tank is the Panther, or any tank with superb frontal armor and mediocre side armor. You can still do some angling with a turret though. Keep experimenting. If you want to try sim battles but don't know where to start, here's a set of aircraft that make your life a little bit easier. A quick disclaimer. When we say BAST here, it only means that these planes are okay to fly, are stable and pack a punch, in most cases, all of this at the same time. But these are no magic war-winning machines, just some honest planes for honest men, and women too. Since update 1.47, sim battles are found in the Events tab and are divided into 5 categories, one for each rank. If you're just starting, we suggest that you should stick to something between BR 1.7 and BR 3.3. Every nation has at least a couple of planes that won't let you down. For the Americans, these planes are the Kitty Hawk and the Airacobra P-39Q5. Both of them are nice to fly, they're also fast, pretty maneuverable, and have a decent ammo count, which is super important for a rookie pilot. In SB, all games follow the rules of the Enduring Confrontation game mode. That means that not all vehicles will be available from the start, and you have to earn points to unlock more powerful aircraft. For now, we'll have to make do with just the Kitty Hawk. Shoot some planes down, which is not that difficult where the bots are flying around, or destroy some ground targets. Once you get enough points, get the Airacobra and show everyone who's the boss. The Germans won't regret taking the Bf-110 and then Bf-109E4. The twin-engine heavy fighter is a very smooth flyer and boasts a decent 1-second burst mass. The second aircraft is nimble and has good cannons. Soviet pilots are free to choose between the I-16 Type 18 and the Lag 335. Keep in mind that these two planes play very differently. The former is ideal for players who are okay with frantic maneuvering, and the second is more for conservative pilots. Then, get into the LA-5F. British gentlemen have it easy, well, slightly easier, okay. They have an excellent selection of agile aircraft with respectable firepower. We recommend you start with the Hurricane or the first Spitfire. Then switch to the Sea Hurricane Mark 1C or the Spitfire Mark 5B. And the Japanese aviators should fly the Ki-44-1 or the A6M2N, and then terrorize the skies in the Ki-44-2 and J2M2, or the excellent Ki-61-1, Otsu. Have fun! Finally, it's time for the traditional last part of our show, Hotline, developers answering questions from the comments. Strictly speaking, it's not the most serious-minded section of the show. If you want answers to be given with solemn faces, feel free to appeal to the official forums. Here we'll have a more lighthearted discussion of the big questions of War Thunder. We hope you like it. We'll start with a question from Caden Frasert. Gaijin, will you ever add the B-26? Hi, it is certainly possible. We even have the Douglas A-26 Invader in the game, the plane that assumed the B-26 designation after the Marauder retired. Cannot give the exact date though. The second question comes from Mr. William 932. Okay, Gaijin, will you add a system for multi-crew vehicles? At least in bombers, you know? Me as a pilot and a friend as a gunner? Hello, William. Nope, we do not plan to introduce this feature to the game. It's a cool little idea, but we don't think that it really belongs to our game. Then there's a remark from a user called Revazide. Stop saying captains when you haven't even released the CBT yet. Captains. Captains. Captains! But seriously, buddy, we're so excited for Naval Forces that we cannot help to spread the love to all things naval, and try to make you a part of it even before CBT. It's almost here, and thank you for your patience. That's it for today, but feel free to write your questions in the comments below. We do read them all, and you might see some of them answered in the next episode. If you like what we're doing, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thank you, and see you on the shooting range.